Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And today we're breaking down the second part of the in-state rivalry in college basketball, Purdue versus Indiana. Drew?
We broke down the first one. Now we're going to give you the second one. Let's
Yeah.
run it, baby.
You know it. Indiana traveled to West Lafayette this time to take on the number 5 Boilermakers. Indiana having the
Purdue
17th ranking of
part
their
2
own.
Electric Boogaloo.
We're here for it. We had a similar outcome to the first. Final score being 79-71. This marks Indiana's first winning streak in this rivalry dating back
2012, 2013.
2012, 2013. I was going to say at least push it to mid-2010s.
The first time that IU won at Mackey since that year, and they break out the brooms. But we are here to break down what happened. Tim, what the heck happened?
Yeah, so starting off this game, Purdue got off to a hot start. I think it was a 6-0 lead to start the game. Things were looking good. We were playing well. Largest lead in the first half was 17-10 with 12:33 to go. Things started to heat up there from that point. IU, fought back a little bit all the way until halftime at 38-34. And in the second half, entirely different ball game. But one of the big things to note, especially from that first half, is Jalen hood-schifino is here.
Jalen hood-schifino was there, and he did not go away.
Yeah, let's just put it out there that this dude is making the case for a lottery pick. He's putting himself right on the map out there. First half, I believe he had 21, I think.
Yeah, a lot.
It was the Jalen hood-schifino show for Indiana. They were just putting him in ball screens with Edey and drop coverage and saying, what are you going to do to stop it? And Purdue had no answer, especially in the first half. They didn't make a whole lot of adjustments, but hood-schifino was on fire, and he kept up more of that in the second half, but we slowed him down a little bit. His final stat line ended up being 35 points on 14 of 24 shooting.
Wow.
And 3 for 4 from 3 and 6 for 7 from the free throw line. You really can't ask for any better of a stat line from a freshman, especially in a game like this on the road in Mackey Arena. He played like a monster.
Absolutely. I mean, are we sure this kid is even a freshman? He put on a show, and the thing that surprised me was we expected Trace Jackson Davis to be the engineer of that Indiana offense. It was not Trace Jackson Davis at all.
He sat in the background for a good portion of the game,
which is a complete selfless and team move by Trace Jackson Davis.
And that's the thing. When the rest of the team was playing the way they were, I mean, you had guards knocking down threes. Obviously, Jalen was going to work in the pick and roll. He understood that the game script was the way that he was, and he sat in the back. And that's at the end of the day, he did not score until just shy of the 11-minute mark in the second half,
which is crazy.
And still ended up with 10, 8, and 7. So yeah. he was still getting his boards, and he was doing a very good job facilitating. I believe he had probably 5 rebounds, 5 assists, somewhere around there at halftime. So he did more scoring and less assisting in the second half. But yeah, he understood what his role was in that moment, and he played that very well.
Simply put, he knew his role. He shut his mouth. He played the facilitator, and
he understands that he doesn't always have to be that All-American player that we know he can be.
It was a little confusing. Imagine how confusing it was for Purdue when the offense is running through Jalen hood-schifino. And credit to Jalen hood-schifino. I mean, he was able to drive and either create his own shot at the mid-range or kick to Trey Galloway or Miller Kopp, who just cut for a wide-open 3. Both of them had 3 threes each, 13 points for each of them, and they both stepped up.
Yeah, the big thing for Jalen hood-schifino is he did an extremely good job of when you're getting around the screen using his hip to fend off the guard coming around on his backside. You either had the teardrop floater, you got the drive to the basket, or he would just pull up in that mid-range. Like you said, also those kick-out threes were super important. As a team, Indiana shot 7 for 15 from 3 for 47%. Obviously, they didn't have to shoot the 3 a ton, and they were efficient with it. So, I mean, that's what you need to do, especially on the road. Throughout this year, Indiana has struggled historically a bit on the road compared to at home. They pretty much shut that down today. They had a very efficient game. Obviously, there were certain things that didn't go their way at different times, but they stayed the course. I mean, obviously, from being there, you had a very, very hostile crowd. Like we were really in it at any opportunity. But they kept the level head and did everything that they needed to do, not only to gain that lead in the second half, because Purdue had that lead for pretty much the entirety of the first half. I think they did have the lead for the entirety of the first half.
Yeah, Indiana did not hold a lead in the first half. It was the second
But
half when they absolutely jumped on them with
yeah,
that 12-0 or 17-4 run
yeah.
and just kept Purdue in an absolute funk.
The big thing is they stepped up the pressure. Similar to the first matchup, they stepped up the pressure, got a couple of turnovers, got out a transition, got those quick buckets, got some threes, got to the free throw line, and all of a sudden they had a 6-7 point lead. If there's any way to take the crowd out of it, that's the way to do it. And they, once again, rather than first half, in the second half, they sucker punched them right to start off there. And they made it a lot more difficult to get the ball into Edey, so on and so forth. Things started stacking up. But the big thing for Purdue is just not being able to knock down shots. At the end of the day, you talk about the 3-point line, the free throw line. You cannot expect
Everywhere,
to
just
beat
everywhere, they didn't knock down
yes,
shots.
but those two specific points, you cannot expect to beat a top 25 team, Big Ten or outside of the Big Ten. If you shoot, I mean, they shot 21% from three. They
Yep.
made 2 threes in the last 20 seconds. Like,
Yeah,
without those 2 threes, that percentage
that's
is even worse.
inflated.
You cannot expect to beat a top 25 team when you shoot 25% or under. Realistically, I was 20% or under from the 3-point line and less than 70% from the free throw line. They were 22 from 33 from the free throw line. You can say in Assembly Hall in that first matchup, okay, you got a lot of stuff going on. You got a hostile crowd in there for not knocking down free throws. They were worse in this game. You left 11 points at the free throw line. You lost the game by 8.
Yeah, that could make all the difference. It's just basic math. And yeah, in a
You
perfect world, you're not going to knock
you
down
can't
every
blame the
single
crowd for
free
this one.
throw, but
No,
shooting
for
66%.
a team that shoots largely better than 66% as a team, you have to expect more out of those guys, especially at home. You've got everybody behind you. You've got a crowd of 14,000 plus that are absolutely roaring at every opportunity. You have to step it up. And I think today we saw the ability of we saw a young Purdue team throughout the year. Purdue has quieted sort of the questions about their young team. You don't have a single senior other than, I guess, David Jenkins Jr., but obviously he's a new guy. And you've got obviously those 2 freshmen out there.
It's a little different.
Today, they looked like a young team. You saw visible frustration. You saw body language start to go downhill in the second half when things were going their way. They've got a lot to look at. For me and for everyone out there, if you are a Purdue fan and you are not frustrated and upset by the way that this game gone, then you're not really a Purdue fan, because we did not lose this game.
Yeah.
You did not lose this game based on really the other team. Purdue beat themselves today. They had every opportunity to win this game themselves, and they simply did not do it. All credit to Indiana. I will say this right here and right now. Today, Indiana played like the better basketball team. They deserve to
no
win
doubt
that game
about
based
it.
on the
No
way that they
doubt
play.
about
There's no sugarcoating that.
Okay. Yeah, there's visible frustration. We love
you
using
lose
this
more out of your last
platform.
5. Like,
We love using this platform as sometimes frustrated fans to air out our frustrations with the team. I did it in the Butler Boom Buster Believable. Like, clearly my college team isn't in it, so I have my own frustrations. I think like questioning a fandom is a bit extreme, but point made. And this is where I am going to give Indiana their flowers, as I understand, you're frustrated with your side. That's fine. Indiana came out after halftime, made the adjustments, put the pressure on. Their defense was everywhere, didn't allow Purdue to get it into the blocks, got up as much as 13 like that.
Yeah.
Put their foot
snap of fingers
on their throat and didn't let go. They
really
had them
didn't.
when they were down, and they kept them there. The entire game, the entire rest of the way was like 10, 11 points. And as soon as Purdue would dump it down to Edey and he'd go down and get a bucket, IU would go right back down and score and take the win right out of Mackey Arena. And you have to give them credit for that. They played fantastic on the road against the top 5 team. You have to give the Hoosiers your flowers, Purdue fan or not. You have to respect what they did today.
No, 100%. Because up until about that minute to go, It never got closer than 9 points. Once they got that lead up there, Purdue would go get a bucket. They would go right back down. And that's the big thing, is the difference between this game and the first time around when Purdue clawed all the way back. Purdue was able to get stops down the stretch to slowly knock it down from 9 to 7 to 5 to 4, somewhere around that range. IU punched back at every opportunity. They did not back down. I mean, obviously, they shot extremely well. They ran their offense. They knew how they wanted to attack Purdue, and they exploited matchups this game. No doubt about it.
Punching and counter punching. And I will say this for Indiana, that is their biggest test coming into the Big Ten tournament. That gives them a lot of momentum, a lot of hope that you can hang with the big dogs and totally compete in this conference. But Tim, let me ask you this, as a Purdue fan, after this loss, this season, great season overall, but it is clearly tainted because you did not beat Indiana. And that series means so much more than any other Big Ten games. So entering the Big Ten tournament and going into March, don't you think there's a little bit of soul searching to do for the Boilermakers?
The big thing to do for them is, in my opinion, searching for the why. Because in a game like this, you have every reason and every motivation to come out with that same intensity that IU had. And it did not seem like they had that. That's what you need to understand, because in a game like this, in the Big Ten tournament, in the NCAA tournament, you have to have that why game in and game out. You cannot slip up. They have to figure out that why again. They have to find that intensity, not only of that offensive side of the game, because we know what Purdue can do on offense, but the big part of the first half of the season was the Boilermakers defense. That has disappeared in the second half of the season. Where are you going to get that from? Because let's taking a look at this. I've heard from countless IU fans, all the people that I know from over the past, year and whatnot, when IU's, gotten back into this rivalry, they will be the first to tell you that anyone in this rivalry can put aside some of these games if you do something in March. Because when Purdue won 9 in a row, IU's argument has always been, do something in March. Well, now it's time for Purdue to answer. You've laid out this goose egg in the rivalry throughout this year. Can you take this and do something in March and be the better team come the tournament? That's the best way to shut. That's the best way to shut down the narrative this year.
That's the real question.
All right, quite a crazy day and a crazy matchup, but that's all for we got for today. March is right around the corner, so expect plenty more college basketball on the way. I'll be wrapping up Boom Buster Believable, and we'll have conference breakdowns out just like last year before we get to Selection Sunday. But here on the channel, we have lots of other content from all the Boom Buster Believable, including Butler to the NFL and so much more. So stay tuned for everything we've got coming for March Madness and beyond. We're super excited for all of it. But if you want more from us, check out our other videos, like and subscribe. And next time, peace.